Hey, scrappers and recyclers, it's Shark Scrapper. We found an old IBM buried in with a whole bunch of newer PCs in a recent pickup. Come on, let's dive in, see what we got going here. These older PCs are really interesting because they're put together very different than a lot of the more modern ones. And a lot of the boards are much larger and have a lot more to them. So we'll be cutting off these and putting these ends with our gold connector ends because they're coming off of gold-plated pins. Yeah, let's see if we can get some good gold pins out of this to show you what they look like. It's an older, it was an older PC, so we might have some decent pins in here. Fingernail clipper, and these usually come out pretty easy with the fingernail clippers. Just grab hold of them and pull them out, and there you can see the gold plating on the end of the pin. It's really not a lot of gold, and folks that have gone after the gold have confirmed that there isn't whole lot of gold going after it as a hobby scrapper, but Board Sort buys these as gold connector ends, and so that's the quickest way to get your money out of those. But hey, if you're a hobbyist and you just want to mess around with it from the hobby perspective, then yeah, by all means, go ahead and pull those pins and go after that gold. Just be really, really careful because the chemicals that you end up using to get the gold can be very dangerous. So make sure that you're wearing the proper PPE and following the advice of experienced folks, whether you've seen them do it on YouTube or you've looked them up somewhere. If you see a video of somebody using any of the acids without a fume hood, an extractor, or a respirator, don't follow their advice. Because if they're so stupid as to do that without protecting themselves, then you don't want to be following their advice. Now, I mean, you know, maybe if they're doing it outside, well ventilated, you could almost say, okay, well, it's still really dangerous because you don't know which way the wind is going to shift. You inhale some of those fumes, you're going to be in really bad shape. So, you know, they ought to have a respirator on at least. A big old power supply here. Something that I just broke. I don't know what I just broke. Those are the power supply plugs. Here's another ribbon wire. That's going to this drive. It might be a zip, or it's just a 3.5, not sure. Let's see here. Not much going on there, just the plastic case broke probably a long time ago because it wasn't on there when I picked it up. Get this wire out of the way. So I think power supply, more plastic trash. Get that pin out of the way, and then the power supply slides backwards and comes right out. Okay. Now, screw, flathead screw. Didn't even know they ever used flatheads on a PC. And that gets that bracket out of the way that was holding down this backplane board. And the backplane board going into the motherboard, and then it was for all of the what we would call slot cards now. They're just really big slot cards. Let's see how. We have thumb screws here, so I'm undoing that. Let's see if that makes some difference in this board. It kinda does. There we go. All right, so very nice gold finger card. We have a nice socket mounted chip. We have that socket mounted, so I could remove those for the gold. And ooh, these are nice. Yeah, those are very nice. So yeah, we'll probably be pulling those. Well, I'll try to get you the price for these off of Board Sort's website right now. Now, don't get too excited. These do not qualify as gold-capped, gold-legged ICs because the legs are not gold. But Board Sort does buy them as Pentium Pros for that $165 a pound. Of course, they don't weigh that much, but still, it's better than just plain old ICs, yeah? So, yeah, gold finger card. And we can probably take that bracket off if we want, or sell it as a gold finger card with the bracket. And we can remove these socket mounted ICs without lowering the value. Now, back plane, here is the RAM. Man, that is one heavy RAM. It's gold fingered RAM, really old. Those are some big knocking ICs there. And they were all in at an angle. You could see it had slots for 3 RAM. That was the backplane board. So you see gold fingers. I'll take off the metal bracket. And we've got the speaker here. So the speaker can just go in with shred. We'll cut these wires and throw those in with my number 3 insulated copper wire. And you go in there, and that's just trash, plastic trash, because I don't have a plastic refiner. I am reaching out to some folks. We'll see. Here's some copper, very thin copper, just copper tape. We'll scrunchy that up and put that in with my number 2 copper. Alrighty, now we have the motherboard, and it's got some little screws on it, little flatheads. I think this will work. You know what? I want to see if my socket, if this is the right size for this socket, because that'll be a lot faster. And it is. All right, now we still have a chip in here. I'm not exactly sure what, let's see, does it's an IBM chip. It's a white plastic, or maybe that's a heat spreader over another chip, but it's mounted onto the board. So that's all staying on there. All of these big chips are going to be staying on here. Lots of big ICs here. Lots of great big yellow tantalum capacitors, oscillators, all kinds of ICs in here. Man, that's just loaded. This is just such a good value board here. This would have been where CPU would have gone down in there probably, because it's got pins, and yeah, so that was some sort of CPU bracket or holder that went down into this pin slot. Yeah, very interesting. I could throw that in with my gold connector ends. And the back of the board has more ICs, yellow tantalums, lots of little tiny MLCCs all over the place on here, which is very interesting. I think, given how densely populated this board is, that we can put this in with our Telcom high grades. Yeah, it's a motherboard. It's an older motherboard, but it is so densely populated with ICs, and because these are older ICs, these are going to have a lot of good value in them. So I'm going to put that in with my Telcom high grade boards. All right, now this drive. How does this drive want to come out? I don't know how this drive wants to come out. I don't know that it really, oh, there we go. It just pushes out. It was just a little bit rusted up there. Probably not much value with this, but we'll see. Get it off of its caddy. So I don't see zip on it anywhere. It's labeled with IBM, so that was just a 3.5 inch floppy. So there isn't going to be a whole lot of great value. We've got some gold pins. I could pull that motor. We'll see if this board will come off easy enough. It's got some tiny little Phillips here. So, I can't put it in with the CD-ROM boards because it's not a CD-ROM. I mean, it's a floppy drive, but it's a pretty good board. Green on both sides, got some good chips on it. I think I might throw that in with my peripheral boards. Yeah, I think I'll put that in with the peripheral boards, and it's pretty well populated, not much junk, so I'm going to put that in with the peripheral high grades. Motor, if you want to go after those. We'll see if this, if this little motor wants to come out. It might have a brass spindle on it. Yeah, it does have a brass spindle. And let's see if we can get that off of there. Usually, we can just grab hold of the motor, and then we can pry the spindle out without too much trouble. Usually. Come on. Oops. There we are. So there's a little brass. And then if your yard buys this as small electric but copper bearing motors, then you can put that in there. My yard doesn't, so this is just going in with my shred for the time being. And the rest of this is just going to be shred. Very cool scrap out. I am keeping the power supplies separate right now because I'm going to check around. I have a couple of other options that have developed for power supplies other than my yard that only buys them as shred. So I don't know what's going to happen to them yet, but I'm hanging on to them for the time being. All right, I'm going to get cleaned up here and look for the next victim. Why don't you all check out the links that are coming along on either side here of the screen. Here, I'll let you look at this while the links are popping up to take you to more Shark Scrapper content. The round one in the middle, that's to help you to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Be safe. We'll see you on the next one.